A very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Express. My name is Trix Ingado. Today on the show, we bring you the very latest of all that has transpired in the past 24 hours, as has been covered by the local dailies. Also, we shall be reviewing the politics that has unfolded over the week and the major stories that you need to be aware of. Also, we look farther beyond across our borders and take a look at what's making headlines internationally. And we have a special panel that's going to dig deeper into some of these headlines and current affairs. Also, later on, Brian Astelli shall be joining us with the very latest in entertainment. And of course, we have a special music act that's going to be with us to put you in the Friday mood. Now, let's start off by taking a look at what's making headlines on the international front. And we start off in neighboring Uganda with the Daily Monitor. And the paper is telling us this morning, head teachers ask government to reopen schools in October. The National COVID Task Force is expected to reconvene on Wednesday next week to discuss the new dates for reopening of schools after putting into consideration the proposals of the president. Also, fear as armed robbers terrorize city suburbs. The crime wave comes in the wake of security crisis in the greater Masaka, where the machete-wielding men have killed some people. Also, I am not grooming my son for presidency. This is what President Yoweri Museveni has said in Uganda. Also, doctors threaten to close hospitals over delayed pay rise. And in the region, we are told Somalia power struggle escalates over security minister's sacking. The Al-Qaeda allies are driven out of Mogadishu a decade ago, but retain control of swaths of the countryside and continue to stage deadly attacks. Take a look at the Daily Monitor for what's making headlines in Uganda as well as the region. Let's take a look at the Citizen from Tanzania. They're telling us another record as Serene Theodora docks at Dar es Salaam port. The Tanzanian principal port of Dar es Salaam has received another record-breaking vessel, and it is pictured right there, as you can see, named Serene Theodora. Also, the police release Hamza Mohammed's 5 relatives 2 weeks after the August 25 shooting incident at the Diplomatic Center in Dar es Salaam, Ali Hassan Mwinyi Road. Police have confirmed that they have released his relatives, and of course he lost his life in that rampage. Now, Air Tanzania passengers can now pay in installments. Air Tanzania company has on Thursday said it's in talks with commercial banks and telecom companies to allow Tanzanians from all walks of life to enjoy air rides on and flights. Now, banking industry expands despite COVID-19 impact. The banking industry in Tanzania continues to grow last year, with key indicators showing positive trends despite an outbreak of the coronavirus. Also, Tanzania German Bank signs a 67.8 billion grant agreement. Pictured there are the stakeholders. Let's take a look at what's happening in Rwanda. We told pensioners cash woes in time of the pandemic. Find out how people are being affected by the pandemic. Sex for food in Mozambique, says a report. A very interesting story right there, and quite concerning. Meningitis epidemic in the DRC kills 129. Bicycle ride-sharing app gets the green light to launch in various Kigali locations. Find out more about this, this interesting innovation. Of course, common abroad, but this must be one of the few firsts in Africa. Also, COVID has devastating impact on the fight against HIV, TB, malaria. This is according to the Global Fund. Now, next, let's see what's on the CNN website this morning. We are being told Biden's tough new vaccine rules. It says Biden's new COVID vaccine mandates could apply to up to 100 million people, as he told those who refused to get vaccinated, your refusal has cost us. Find out more. And getting the vaccine can still feel like an act of treason in the hard-hit corner of rural America. Find out why those people are hardlined anti-vaxxers. Also, an opinion piece right there tells us there's good and bad news about COVID-19. And still on that, Biden says times will double for travelers who don't comply with, rather fines will double for those travelers who don't comply with the COVID-19 rules. Also, flight lands in Qatar after Taliban cleared Americans and others to leave Afghanistan. This apparently is the first flight out of Kabul after those evacuations, as the Taliban continue to figure out how they shall be moving forward in terms of governance. And Phil Collins, suffering from health problems, can barely hold drumsticks. Pretty unfortunate for that entertainer. Take a look at the CNN and find out what is making headlines internationally. But on the local front, very interesting headlines right here. Massive job losses as economy takes a hit. This is what the Daily Nation is leading with this morning. Nearly 740,000 workers lost their jobs last year as the COVID-19 pandemic hit Kenyan households hard. The 2021 Economic Survey has revealed. That report, released yesterday by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani, for the first time reveals the extent of damage that the deadly virus wreaked on different sectors of the economy. In similar news, good, bad and ugly of a pandemic year. This is the Standard this morning. It is telling us not out of the woods, released 5 months late. New economic data paints a picture of a battered economy that shrunk 0.3% and shed 700,000 jobs, only saved by agriculture, even as factories grew silent, hotels shut down, and so much more that we're going to look into. Now, we expect to have Isaac Wabuge, governance and political analyst, with us this morning. Also, Anthony Aloch, Mathare Member of Parliament, as well as John Mwaniki, who's the Deputy Governor for Laikipia, to help us look at some of the stories that are making headlines this morning. And if you grab yourself a copy of the Standard, you can expect to see this on your front page. Also, we're told CBC, no retreat, declares Magoha amid uproar. Of course, the practicality of the CBC has been put into question. Far from that, we are being told Treasury to release 2 billion for relief food. This is on page 12 of the Standard. Also, it's a witch hunt says Waiguru on ESCC summons. And of course, this is quite something that has been making headlines for a minute now. And on page 20, they go into details of that. Also on the front page of the Daily Nation, we are told regional champs, brilliant Kenyan girls win Sakafa title. Right there, they're pictured there, celebrating. And the trouble with Laikipia operation. Officers on the ground say they have not received orders to shoot at the marauding gangs that are apparently terrorizing locals. On page 12, we have more details on that. They're being told, this is page 12 of this, the Daily Nation this morning. There's more details on that. We can, unclear command structure hampers Laikipia operations. Officers on the ground say they haven't received orders to shoot at the marauding gangs. And of course, that's a very interesting story that is making headlines. And I would like to get the opinion of the Deputy Governor, who is with us here in studio. And of course, on that and many other stories that are making headlines. Another one of key of interest is ODM moots alliance with PNU. The talks that began yesterday have rekindled memories of a grand coalition government that was led by President Mwai Kibaki and ODM leader Raila Odinga. The two parties worked together following a truce brokered by the United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, the late, who has since died following the deadly 2007-2008 post-poll violence. Now let's take a look at another story related to Laikipia County. Tiati Member of Parliament William Kamket will spend a second night in police custody following his arrest on Wednesday over links to the bandit attacks in Laikipia. Kamket faces an array of charges, including robbery with violence as well as incitement. Meanwhile, a Nairobi court has released former Laikipia North MP Matthew Lumpurkel on bail. Ibrahim Karanja tells us more.
The prosecution's team, led by Alois Kemoy, seeking to have the MP detained for 14 more days to aid investigations.
This would be the least restrictive way in which order could be restored, because all we require is a free environment within which to conduct investigations without any interference.
Allegations leveled against the Member of Parliament include murder, robbery with violence, stock theft, malicious damage and injury to property, incitement to violence and disobedience to the law. All this linked to the attacks in Laikipia.
You note, Your Honor, that there are people who have been displaced, people have been killed, people who have land and have homes are resorting to burying their people in public cemeteries.
How will the suspect interfere with filling in of P3 forms? How will he interfere with reporting offences in police stations that are not mentioned?
Kamket is further accused of holding a meeting in Survey area on the 31st of August where the crimes were allegedly planned. Kamket's lawyers, however, disputed this, stating that the MP was chairing a parliamentary committee sitting in Mombasa on the date stated.
My client undertakes to comply with whatever terms Your Honor would grant by way of bond.
Nakuru Chief Magistrate Lilian Arika is expected to give direction on whether or not Kamket will be released on bail. She, however, allowed the lawmaker to seek treatment from the Rift Valley Provincial General Hospital for an undisclosed ailment. Meanwhile, former Laikipia North Member of Parliament Matthew Lempurkel was released on a 150,000 shillings cash bail after he pleaded not guilty to hate speech charges. The MP has been accused of uttering hateful words against one community during a TV interview on a vernacular station. Meanwhile, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutiambai says calm is slowly returning to Olmoran area of Laikipia.
Secured. We have secured this place. No more bandits have gone round in the air, and no signs of any groups of bandits around.
The government now intends to have schools reopen on Monday, even as they urge residents to return to their homes.
Watoto watarudi na wazazi wao ili kuanzia Monday, God willing, nataka watoto wakuwa wamerudi kwa shule. Kuna about 5 schools ambao ziko affected. Kuna zingine wanafunga tu kwa sababu wanajua zingine zimefungwa.
Ibrahim Karanja, KTN News.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for that update. And that story, like I said earlier on, is on page 14 of the Daily Nation. Attackers said to have M16 and other advanced firearms, and a situation that's causing a challenge is what is being termed as unclear command structures. Now, some officers told the nation that unit commanders at times issue contradictory instructions, and some say had we been organized, we would have surrounded these bandits and eliminated them. At the same time, there is a call for restraint, and elders want innocent herders protected. Also from Laikipia, Lempurkel charged with hate speech and incitement, as we saw right there in that report by Ibrahim Karanja. And I'd like the opinion of John Mwaniki, Deputy Governor Laikipia, on this situation that is proving a bit messy for the county of Laikipia. What's your take?
Thanks, Trix. Good morning, viewers. We have a very dire situation in Laikipia right now. We have families who have lost their loved ones. We have families that are sleeping in the cold, and a month ago they were going about their normal business. It beats the logic to understand that with all the power that government is demonstrating out there in Laikipia, they cannot be able to put this issue to a stop. Speaking about the arrest of Matthew and Honorable Kamket, yes and no, because hate speech is not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with criminals, bandits, who are using, wreath of firearm that we don't understand how they got hold of the firearm. And also the sustained, keeping them available to continue wreaking havoc every evening, every day. But we want to see whether, after Mtiambai visited the site yesterday, we reckoned that his directive that schools resume on Monday, will be honored and those bandits will be cleared. I mean, right now we need all help that we can be able to channel to the people there, those that are held up at churches, at police stations, because they need food, they need shelter, and that's the reality. Their homes are burnt down, so they need to reconstruct them. We need building materials. And this kind of support is not even enough from a county government point of view. That's why we are calling upon both the Interior Ministry, friends of the families of all Moran to come forward and help them in one way or the other to ensure that they go back to their lives. Remember even the crop that the hunters grazed on this crop, so they're actually staring at starvation. So there is more into it. But the bigger picture is looking at the long-term solution. What do we need to do? Because these sort of issues keep recurring every other season. But towards the election period, they become more pronounced. We do hope that the mechanisms that the government is putting in place now, setting up a Kirema district there, where our Moran becomes now upgraded as a district headquarter, putting a better police-equipped division there, then this will be able to provide long-lasting, peaceful solutions for the people of Moran.
Yeah.
They deserve to be Kenyans.
Yes.
They deserve to live. And they have not, I don't remember the peasant farmers there harming anybody.
Yeah.
But I think we'll look at this thing deeper and understand some of the politics that is being played out there. And it's unfortunate that in Kenya, lives of Kenyans are secondary, but politics comes first. We always sacrifice lives of poor Kenyans at the altar of politics, and it's very unfortunate indeed.
Indeed, that is unfortunate. And of course, as we think of solutions to this particular problem, there's the assertion that, or rather the claim that the police officers on the ground have not even received orders to shoot the marauding gangs. So the officers said despite their units having enough rifles, ammunition, armored personnel carriers, all in good condition, operating without a centralized command, has let them down. We have not even been instructed to kill these bandits. All we are doing is chasing them and holding Moran shopping center, where internally displaced people are found are taking refuge. Do you think, sir, that there's not enough this issue is not being taken with enough seriousness?
I think that's why I said we need to understand a little bit of behind the scenes what is happening in Laikipia. Because remember, the Ngombes that are in Laikipia also belong to some of ourselves who are high in government. And therefore, they are trying to say, you go slow, don't chase our herders, we need the pasture, which is a very baseless excuse because it is not the first time that the Ngombes have been there. The pastoralist community living in Laikipia and the neighborhood have lived together for years. So really, one gets to wonder, and I do agree with the comments of the officer that there seems to be a reluctance to unleash force and clear out the criminals. Where did you ever find a criminal negotiating with an officer? There can never be a table where they can negotiate because one fella is armed and is firing, the other fella has a firearm which looks like a pen. So what are these firearms for? Then in that case, which is what we would not want to advocate, but it looks like you're telling the Wananchi, then you take the arms yourselves and defend yourself. And that's a disaster a recipe for chaos in a country where there's a rule of law. The IG himself has been there before. We just hope that 12 hours after he has been to site, that we can expect tranquility and peacefulness to resume. Otherwise, failure short of that, he should resign himself because we have given him responsibility as Kenyans to protect us. So when he comes back there and then we get, Wananchi are being clobbered, the IG is still in the office, or too much talk show, yet there's no day IG has said, I'm short of firearm.
Yeah, and amid all this, there's an ongoing drought that is happening, and of course that is usually a catalyst for these wrangles between pastoralists. Their major need is to find enough pasture for their cattle, but at the same time, there are very many other dynamics that seep into this. These are, in some areas, more recent events. In others, these are historical events that form a very vicious cycle. I'd like your take on this, Mr. Wabunge. What do you make of the ongoing situation, insecurity in Laikipia County?
The situation in Laikipia is indeed a black smudge on a conscience of a nation that cannot rise up to defend its own people. And just as the Deputy Governor has put it rightly here, that when you look at the situation is dire, when you look at the situation, it's extremely dire. But then when you look at the government response, it's wanting. And recently, I heard the Rift Valley Commissioner put it to it that he doesn't understand even the kind of firearms that the bandits are using. That in more so they are using firearms that are more advanced than what the officers are on the ground are. And then this leaves to beg. If it's a situation arises like that, that we cannot even account for the kind of weapons that the bandits are using in a country, and the security forces, the security team is not coming up to tell us what is happening, then it becomes quite an unfortunate incident. And as you see, it's now the Kenyan way, it's taking the political angle right now.
Yes.
And you wonder, when the people are dying, when children cannot go to school, when we are having again people displaced from their homes, but then we are still having discussions in boardrooms in Nairobi at the expense of people on the ground, then it just calls that then we are having a kind of a failed leadership. The command system that is handling this has failed. And I'll join forces with what the chairman of the COG advised. Honorable Ambora said, the COG recommended that why can the military take over? Because now, when we are having a situation whereby the command system of those who are there is not communicating as it is supposed to be, and then we are seeing a struggle among the security team on the ground, then it just calls for an urgent intervention from the top, the top security force.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate because when we are talking about leaders being arrested for incitement, we are just 10 months to the general election. And when you look at historically, you also come to realize that these skirmishes happen in electoral cycles. So it also begs the question, is there more than what meets the eye in terms of these banditry attacks and everything? And the politicians and the leaders who also have a stake in Laikipia, why have they not been summoned till now? You see, these are the hard questions that should be on Mutambai's desk right now. But unfortunately, the office is silent. There was I'm told there's a new police spokesperson. We are yet to get a comprehensive statement from the police, which we demand that the people, the children in Laikipia, the mothers and the fathers that are being displaced in Laikipia are not children of a lesser God.
Right. And of course, as you put it, it is the people that suffer when all these dynamics are ongoing. We shall be keeping an eye on that one, but there's yet another story that has been making headlines, concern over the CBC. Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has rubbished calls to suspend implementation of the competency-based curriculum. Speaking in Kakamega, Magoha insisted the government is fully committed to its cause and that no amount of noise will stop the full implementation of the CBC. Magoha's statement comes even as LSK President Nelson Harvey plans to move to court to challenge said CBC.
The intention by Law Society President Nelson Harvey to move to court to challenge the competency-based curriculum may have been a welcome boost to critics of the CBC. In fact, Harvey's announcement may have sounded like music to the ears of frustrated parents and guardians. The LSK president claims the CBC is an expensive, inefficient and ineffective experiment on children and their future. However, speaking in Kakamega, Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha rubbished those opposed to the implementation of the new curriculum, terming them ignorant busybodies.
So all this nonsense we are hearing, ignore them. And I can assure you, in my life, I think the only best thing that is happening now is the competency-based curriculum. Let us not allow the busybodies and politicians to divert.
Emphasizing the value and importance of CBC over the current 844 system, Magoha highlighted the need for the shift, saying CBC seeks to reverse the trend of learners cramming too much information for the sole reason of passing exams.
And if God gives me grandchildren, they must go through CBC, not through a system where you are trained to pass an exam. And when you come out, you really can't even speak English.
Magoha's stand on the CBC has been backed by other stakeholders who, despite accepting its implementation has been problematic, are calling for its full implementation.
If you thought of stopping CBC now, you would actually throw these 8 million learners under the bus. You would have destroyed lives. You would have destroyed brains. You would have destroyed the future of Kenya. You would have destroyed families. You would have destroyed resources. But above all, you would have killed the future of this nation.
It is the right of anyone who wants to go to court, and that is provided for by the law. But it is also the right of the children whom we have led to stay in this system for the past 5 years to continue with their studies uninterrupted. So it's wrong for us to now say we will go to court and stop the system, because we have been in this country all along. The best time to stop it was at its implementation.
And while the greatest noise has been on the high cost on parents, the CS dismissed the claim, saying the government had already procured learning materials.
A lot of parents work and come home late in the evening, and the only thing they have time now to do with their children is homework, schoolwork actually being done at home. And for me, that's a big problem. What we need to be thinking about is there a problem with that? And how do we rectify it? So that children come home, to be home, to interact with their siblings, with their parents, with whoever else they live with, on matters home.
Not many players have been trained about CBC. Not many players know what CBC is. And therefore, that is why I'm calling for a stakeholders forum.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development has called for calm as it addresses concerns raised by parents and other stakeholders. Through its Twitter handle, KICD says it is documenting the feedback from various stakeholders, including teachers. It, however, advised against parents doing homework and assignments on behalf of learners. Shadrach Miti, KT News.
All right, now that story is on page 10 of the Standard this morning. CBC critics are busybodies, says Magoha on new system. Now, CBC is the best thing this country has ever had, and we will not allow ill-informed politics from busybodies to derail our rollout of this program. This is according to the CS. Honorable Mwaniki, what do you make of this? Is it actually, is there some validity in the concerns of those who are complaining about the practicality of the CBC?
Well, you know, I think we need to reflect a little bit back into our previous 844 education system.
Yes.
Where over the last many years, probably 2 decades, that the parent, the Kenyan parent, ordinary Kenyan parent, was used to sending the kid to school, and the teacher is left with the kid, and that's it. And all the way to class 8, they sit for an exam, and like the minister says rightfully, you are drilled to pass exams. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, the same parent who has, for example, maybe 2 kids in the 844 system, and now another kid or 2 in the CBC, is finding it very difficult to adjust and understand that then I need to participate in the child education, particularly in these homeworks. Mm-hmm. But let's not lose the benefits of CBC, because why did we review our curriculum or our education system? Because we realized that over time, the young graduates that we are challenging from the education system, when they are exposed to the world, they are unable to face the world themselves. And that's the bigger picture of our Vision 2030 in terms of converting our economy to a producer economy. So people should not go to school to find jobs. They should actually be trained to ensure that they can create jobs, they can innovate. And this, if you look at a kid in Kenya system today who is 7 years old or 9 years old, and one in China or in Asia, they are already opening up computers and fixing them. Our kids are busy, singing, reciting paragraphs and poems to pass exams. And that will make sure that our country remains behind for many, many years. My own opinion as a parent is, who is also faced with this CBC issue, is that let us sober up. Let us not rush to court to put, orders to stop the system. Let us actually come together, reason together. Whatever teething issues that are there, we address them. In any case, whenever you introduce change, there is always a process of change management.
Yes.
I wouldn't be quick to throw out the CBC curriculum, because then what are you saying? Are you saying we go back to the 844 that has proved over the last 2 decades that is ineffective? Or should we actually improve on this? And in any case, the one where Kenya is competing with its competitors, they have actually been where they are because of a CBC system of education.
Right.
So let's not try to be number one of the least or the poor, or the ones that are least challenged. Let us try and compete globally with our competitors who are already ahead of us, so that we can catch up and transform this economy to a middle-class economy.
Right. And Mr. Wabuge, do you think then we should have waited? Maybe this is a good thing rolled out too soon, so that we have the right infrastructures, we have even the right economy, whereby parents are comfortable enough or more educated to handle some of the responsibilities that are on their laps. What do you think about the rollout? While it has been proven that this is the right direction, some parents are finding it very, very difficult to keep up.
On the timing, the timing was okay. There'll be no day we'll be ready to implement anything as grandiose as what the CBC holds.
Yeah.
And for this in mind, just picking up from where my colleague has left, that in a bid to move Kenya into the middle economy status, we need to start from the basics. And the basics then touches on education. The 844 system had proved to be moribund. So we needed something that is versatile. We needed something that can help us raise global icons, global students. As we see the world moving, the world has become a global village right now. Over the internet and the media and all the social media options that we have right now. Anytime you are there, you are interacting with somebody who is across the globe. So with this, then, it demands that we also need to align. 844 cannot respond to the challenges of of the current student, where internet is all over the place. And when you look at developed economies, let's say like the education system in places like Finland, it is endeavor to raise a holistic individual, somebody who has the capacity to handle the challenges of the world that is coming. And you see, that one is not defined by age. So we need a curriculum that is able to respond to where the world is moving. And CBC has the capacity to that. We might face some teething challenges here and there, but that is normal of any new thing that is introduced, any huge, something that literally it sets apart how things used to be done between now and the past. So that's why we are experiencing the challenge that is there.
Right.
But when you look at the brighter side of it, the CBC has given an opportunity for parents to be involved. And this is where the biggest issue again is coming, because parents were used to 844, whereby, it was giving out, handouts, homeworks here and there. And the kid had to do this thing on their own. But now the CBC is giving an opportunity whereby, the parent, you need to be fully involved.
Right.
So we are no longer going to blame the teachers. We are no longer going to blame the education system, but all stakeholders have a role to play.
Okay.
So I think the parents just have to find where to plug in, accept that this is change, and go.
And then we overcome the challenges as we move on. Honorable Moniki, yes?
Yeah, maybe there is something we need to reflect a little bit. You see, the system of the lessons, the learning lessons in the school, have not changed, because then CBC has a lot of doing, which then the school timetables need to capture that and reflect that. Because if then you want the child to be able to go and do some activity, then they cannot leave school at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the other thing that we need to do an improvement. Say, find lessons and at maybe 3 p.m. or 2:30.
Yes.
Then the child has enough time to gather materials and what have you. I think the other thing also we need to ask ourselves is that, remember when we had the analog technology and we switched off to digital, we said, you know what, we have to have a cutoff. So I'm a bit concerned when I see the chairman of the LSK president saying that he's going to go to court. I'm even wondering, is he actually not a parent? Because then are you saying, suppose then, and you know how judicially this is very erratic, suppose then they issue an order to suspend CBC.
Then
so what, we send the million learners home? Some things we have to be really, really reflective and think through, because This is a life of a child who, and we know the formation of a child psychologically, they have a period of absorbing new information. Yeah. As they grow older, things become more and more complex. So we are wasting the prime time for our children to be able to absorb new materials into their brain so that they can be useful in this country. Right. I think the issue is, honestly, let the education experts sit together, the parents sit together, all stakeholders sit together, and we say, should we agree first that CBC will work? Then how?
Right. Now, Mr. Mabuge, do you think then Nelson Harvey is being a busybody?
Yeah, I think the decision by Nelson Harvey to go to court is not a panacea to the challenge that we are in right now.
Yeah.
When you see the tweet by KICDC, I think that is the right approach, that, you know, let us come together, let's reason together again. Yeah. Because right now, actually, as we know, the kind of, the way the judiciary responds nowadays, as the Deputy Governor has put it right now, if in case the judiciary declares this thing to stop until further engagement over it takes shape, what will be the crisis that we are putting ourselves in? Remember, we are talking of children who have been in school during, whose school was interrupted because of the COVID situation. Yeah. Now, when you consider the COVID situation, then we had just started having the CBC, I think, coming in. When you put all these things together, you realize that then this challenge was anticipated. It is expected. It had not been rolled out fully before the pandemic came. So I believe it just calls for the stakeholders to come back to a round table, have a conversation, see the issues that the parents have raised, try to look at the kind of engagements or maybe the training gaps in the teachers that might be there. How can we leverage on technology? How can we leverage on the training capacity that is there within the ministry and the curriculum development agencies? Then with that, we are able to iron out these challenges. The issue of running to court every time is unfortunate. Right. And you just even looking back recently, there was a scenario whereby the court said, because of out-of-court settlement or other form of engagements outside court, has even saved this country more resources. So it will be unfortunate to interrupt the education system with court issues. This is the future of our children. Let us go back to the drawing board. We have the right experts. Nelson Harvey needs to know that just as we have good lawyers and the right people at LSK, we also have the right minds at the ministry and the curriculum agencies. Let them give them a chance to work this thing out.
Absolutely. Now, that's a story that is on in the paper. Grab yourself a copy of the Standard and read more about what the CS said as he defended the CBC as it is right now. And those challenges, he did address them. You can find more details in that article. The good, the bad, the ugly of a pandemic here is one of the biggest stories today. And massive job losses, over 700,000, are what some of the things that are highlighted in a survey that was released by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani, and that is a story we're going to look at on the other side of this break. Do stay tuned to Morning Express.